You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
That's a bunch of flim-flam.
You really are a heel.
Nonsense.
You're as cuddly as a cactus.
Quackery.
You're as charming as an eel.
Flim-flam.
Mr. Grinch.
Nonsense.
You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
I am truly a conflicted person. There's a Republican in me trying to come out. And strengthening your immune system would be the worst thing you can do. First of all, none of these supplements do that.
Tighten regulations on all this quackery and the ripping off of Americans.
The claims are way above and beyond the call of duty, and the feds have a right to stick it to them.
The real problem here is the lack of a law. We'll clean it up in a second.
A lot of people consider you're threatening their health freedom, that it's a fundamental American right to be free to be ripped off and scammed left and right.
Yes, my friends, a new movie coming to a theater near you, How the Grinch Stole Health Freedom, starring Dr. Dean Edell. And if he have his way, if health freedom would be gone tomorrow. In fact, you don't have the freedom to choose the healing that you'd like, even if you agree or disagree, particularly with Dr. Dean Edell. But you have the enslaved mandate to accept the dangerous FDA-approved drugs and vaccines and nothing else, according to America's doctor, Dean Edell. Look, anytime I see here on the Robert Scott Bell Show an attack on health freedom, whether it be from government, whether it be from media, or some talking head, I have an obligation to you, the listener, to set the record straight. And that's what I do every year. I have done it every year for 10 years. And I have tried to ignore this man, but no longer. This guy, the debunker, he prides himself, Dr. Edell, as the skeptic and debunker of what he considers to be quackery. Namely, any supplemental modality that claims to treat, cure, or prevent a disease without first being approved and blessed by the Fear and Death Administration. Oh, Dr. Edell wouldn't call it that. He calls it the Food and Drug Administration, and he respects them immensely. The bureaucratic oligarchy stifling freedom at every turn. And what he calls science. Science, weird science is what it is. It's scientism. And if it sounds familiar, it's, of course, what we talk about every week. Tackling the propaganda, the garbage parading as science to keep you enslaved to pharmaceutical pseudo-substances, synthetic, and not life-sustaining in any way, shape, or form. So today on the Robert Scott Bell Show, we're going to debunk the debunker. He's the Archie debunker. And we're going to set the record straight on some of the misinformation that Dean Edell, or we like to call him here, the Edsel of Health Talk Radio, has been saying lately. And you will not believe what this so-called degreed, educated medical professional, I don't know if he's degreed anymore, but he's certainly heavy on the duh. Recently, it was brought to my attention that the Edsel made a very passionate plea to his listeners to get the flu shot. Get your flu shot! And I found it interesting, the reasoning behind why he said it was silly not to get one. So let's listen to Dr. Dean Edell, clip 1.
Almost all U.S. physicians surveyed said they plan to get a flu shot this season. This is heart and disease experts who have been frustrated by low vaccination rates.
And these are the doctors he's praising, those that are willing to get the shot. Hooray, hallelujah, the doctors are getting their shot. But he had something very interesting, if not shocking, to say about why some healthcare professionals, be careful, it could be you he's talking about, aren't planning to get a flu shot.
Why don't other healthcare professionals move in the same direction? And I pose this question to you, because the rate of people getting vaccinated who are nurses, physicians' assistants, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and others is lower. And you find a high rate of paranoia among nurses. A high rate of nurses who I don't think understand the science behind it. I hate to say it.
Did I hear that right? Paranoid nurses, science they don't understand. Run clip 2 again. This is stunning.
Why don't other healthcare professionals move in the same direction? And I pose this question to you, because the rate of people getting vaccinated who are nurses, physicians' assistants, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and others is lower. And you find a high rate of paranoia among nurses. A high rate of nurses who I don't think understand the science behind it. I hate to say it.
So let me get this straight, Dr. Dean Edell. If you're a nurse, if you're a physician's assistant, a nurse practitioner, or a pharmacist, who doesn't want to get the flu shot? You're basically dumb. You don't think. You're ignorant, and you don't understand the science. Does he really believe that? Is that what Dr. Dean Edell stands for? You know, I think it's amazing that Dr. Edell, Dean Edell, could believe that the healthcare professionals that give the most hands-on type health care are the ones he says, like the nurses and pharmacists, they're just too uneducated to make an intelligent choice on whether or not to get a flu shot. Is that what you think? Nurses out there? If you're a nurse who's against getting the flu shot, how does that make you feel? Dr. Edell thinks you're a dummy. Yeah, call me at 800-259-5791. Let me know what you think. Are you a dummy? I don't think so. I think you're smart. But the Edsel thinks you're paranoid. You're a paranoid ignoramus who just doesn't understand the science. I don't like saying this, he says, but I don't think they understand. And apparently, according to him, only the medical degreed physicians in this country have the mental capacity to understand that getting a flu shot is a good thing. Do your duty. Can you say arrogance? Now, that statement reminds me, interestingly enough, of something I've heard in the media this week. Remember Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton. Yeah, never met a doctor or a drug I don't like. Bill Clinton. As he was campaigning for scary Harry Reid in Nevada. Tell me if this doesn't sound eerily familiar to what Edsel has just said.
You and I know that the only reason this is a tough race is that this is a tough time. And when people are having a tough time and they're frightened and they're confused and they're mad, it's hard to think.
It's hard to think. So Clinton, like Dean Edell, thinks you're just not thinking. That's interesting, right? The reason why the race in Nevada is so close between Sharon Angle and Harry Reid when they said it was going to be a slam dunk is because times are tough right now. And the voters are frightened and confused and mad, and they can't think. Really? Oh, really? I would say that the reason why Harry Reid may lose his seat is because voters are thinking. They are thinking. His own son is running away from his last name. And just like the nurses and pharmacists in this country who are refusing to get a flu shot, it's not because they're dumb or don't get the science and the pharmacists don't understand or they can't think, Mr. Edsel. It's, wait a second. I think he's got another reason. It just keeps going. The hits keep coming. Mr. Edsel thinks you don't want to get the flu shot. Let's hear one more reason why. Clip 4.
And when you ask people, of those not planning, of course, one thing that was not on the list was laziness.
What? Laziness? Okay, pharmacists out there, are you lazy? I don't get to see you sitting around. There's so many people on drugs. You're not lazy. What about the nurses, the nurse practitioners? You're doing the heavy work, the heavy lifting. And now Mr. Edsel thinks, you're lazy? Is this guy for real? Oh, yeah, that's right. He rode the coattails of Limbaugh to 400 stations. If they carry Limbaugh, they have to carry him. That's how it happened. Enlighten you. Oh, my gosh, we've got some enlightening to do. But here we go with clip 5 because it even gets worse.
71% said there are other effective ways to prevent influenza. Well, enlighten me.
Oh, hey, what do you think, guys and girls? You nurses and pharmacists, all of my listeners out there, do you want to hear me enlighten America's doctor? Shall we school Dr. Dean Edell, or would it be just too embarrassing to this unlicensed, uneducated, homeopathic practitioner radio host who gets by on his own steam here? Yes, enlighten you, I will. And maybe you will help me, if you'd like, on the Robert Scott Bell Show by calling 800-259-5791. 800-259-5791. Are you just a stupid practitioner below the level of a degreed medical professional because you don't want to get your flu shot like Dr. Edell thinks you should? I think it's time to school America's doctor on just how to prevent influenza without subjecting yourself to sorcery, pharmacia, pharmaceutical madness from the FDA, approved by Dr. Dean D. Edsel Edell. Let's prevent you and your family from getting that flu jab. When we come back, we're going to learn just how to do that on the Robert Scott Bell Radio Show.